Hey there, Wildcats. It's Dr. Perez, and I'm here to talk to you about options for after high school. Okay, so also known as post secondary options. Today, we are going to take a look at community colleges, trade schools, military. We're going to look at UC and CSUs and kind of all the things that go along with college. Okay, so standardized tests, financial aid, funding, all those things. A couple different pathways that you can take right after high school. You could go directly into the workforce. You could go to community colleges. There are trade schools, military, or there is a four-year route, right? And that four-year route, we've got California State Universities, University of California schools. We've got definitely private independent schools and both out-of-state private or public schools as well. Okay. First, we're going to start off with our community colleges. Here in California, we have 116 community colleges. These are two-year colleges. Entrance requirements, you have to be 18 and a high school graduate or have gotten your GED. It costs about $46 per unit. But also here at College of the Canyons, your local community college, we have something called the Canyons Promise. Okay? And Canyons Promise helps you financially for the first 2 years. So if you qualify, they could take care of your books, your tuition, and even get you a parking pass or a bus pass. So if you're thinking about COC, you definitely want to take a look at Canyons Promise. Okay, there are also trade schools, right? If you know that you want to be a welder or a mechanic or something along those lines, there are over 200 trade schools in California. And a lot of those trade schools are going to be part of our community colleges. COC definitely has several opportunities, and these provide job training for careers in like the healthcare field, the legal field. There are STEM careers as well. And these are going to last anywhere between 1 and 2 years and will give you some type of certification at the end. Okay. The military is also another option. There are several different routes that you can take. Right, you can go directly and enlist right from high school, right, and you've got our different branches of the armed services here. Okay, or if you want to be a commissioned officer, you can join the ROTC while you are at college, and then that's another route. Or you could go to officer academies, right? So we have West Point, Annapolis, the Coast Guard, and both the Air Force Academy. They also have officer academies. Military obligation, you're going to have years of service depending on if you're going enlisted or commissioned officer or going to the officer academy. So that's another option. Okay. Next, we're going to compare the California public schools, right? So we have the California State Universities. There are 23 campuses throughout California. Those are our local one would be California State University Northridge. And that one's a little less expensive than the University of California. Um, Tuition costs, all of those things. If you are living at home, it's going to be about $22,000. But if you are living on campus, let's say UC Merced, right? So now you're looking at a total cost of about $35,000. Um, the University of California, there are 9 undergraduate campuses. There's also a graduate school campus in San Francisco. Um, that's going to be a little more expensive tuition wise. So you're looking at total expense there in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $45,000 per year. Now, both the CSUs and the Cal States, both the CSUs and the University of California, the UCs, neither are using the SAT or the ACT anymore to determine admissions, right? So they are looking at your grades, they are looking at your letters, and they're going to base decisions on that. Okay. There are some slight differences, right? The CSUs, you've got a little bit easier access to professors. Most of the undergraduate majors are going to end with some type of professional training so you can enter the job market directly from the CSUs. From the UCs, yes, some of those programs are doing the same thing, right? Preparing you to enter the job market directly from college, but they're also going to prepare you more towards research and moving on to graduate or professional educational programs. Okay, now both schools are going to prepare you either way, either to go straight into the workforce or for continuing education, right? So that's a possibility in both the CSUs and the UCs. Okay, just depends on what is going to fit you better. Both require A through G requirements, right? So 2 years of history, 4 years of English. The math, they recommend 4 years, but absolutely need 3 years. Okay? For lab sciences, both have a 2 year minimum, right? The UCs are going to recommend a third year, okay? And it follows our pattern as well, right? So biology as a freshman, chemistry as a sophomore, and then physics and other sciences your junior and senior years, okay? Um, both require foreign language for 2 years and a year of visual or performing arts and some type of college prep elective. Okay, so it's very important that you are making sure that you are hitting all of your A through G requirements as you move through your high school years. And your counselors will absolutely help you with that. There are also private and out of state colleges and universities, right? The tuition there is going to range depending on what you're looking at, between $20,000 a year and up to $90,000 a year, okay, and above. So the big part is if you are looking at private schools or schools out of state, you want to check out their individual testing requirements, right? So there's a lot of changes in this area since COVID. There's a website called fairtest.org, and they can help you kind of figure out which schools require which tests, or they can help you look at schools that don't require tests at all in order for admittance. Okay, but there's a wide variety of schools, which means there's going to be a wide variety of requirements. Most prefer students who have met the A through G requirements. Some require a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. So you're going to want to check individual campus websites for your specific requirements, okay? And pay close attention to those requirements. Okay? Now, looking at standardized tests, like I said, you want to check every school's requirements depending on your grade level. Many schools are moving to test optional, but it is recommended that if you are going to take these tests, you take them in the spring of your junior year. Um, you can sign up directly with the College Board for your SATs, and then directly with the ACT website if you choose the ACT test. Um, you want to sign up as early as possible because usually there's only one testing center locally. But taking the PSAT is the practice SAT is a good way to practice for the SAT exam. And it's also potentially qualifies you for a National Merit Scholarship. So that is open only your junior year. So you might want to think about that, even if you're not going to take the SAT, in order to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship. Testing dates vary depending on the test. So again, if you want to take each test, you might want to make sure you know when those tests are being offered. Okay? A couple different things about the tests, right? Both are going to test you on English, both are going to test you on reading and math. The ACT also has a science component, and both have an optional essay. So take a look at the two tests and see which is best for you. Now, lots of different colleges, so lots of different factors that colleges are considering in order to admit students, right? The grades in your college prep courses are going to be most important. The strength of your curriculum, right? If you're taking some APs versus no AP classes or honors classes, they're going to take a look at that. Of course, they're going to look at your essay or writing sample, and our English teachers do a great job every year to prepare our seniors to write those essays. So don't worry if you're worried about that. English teachers are going to take care of you. Okay. Now, yes, it's tough to get into college, especially some colleges, right? We know that 2.5% of colleges accept fewer than a quarter of the students who apply. 14% of colleges accept fewer than half of the students that apply. But the average acceptance rate for a four-year college is around 73%, right? So you might not get into your first or second choice, but with over 4,000 schools in the US, there is a school for you if that's what you want to do. Okay, so don't fret. If you are applying to the UCs or CSUs, the application period starts October 1st and runs through the end of November. Okay. Your private schools or your out of state schools are going to have different deadlines, but the majority will be due in the fall. Okay. Most applications are completed online, and the private schools will likely require letters of recommendation. Okay. Now, for those letters of recommendation, okay, um, private universities are going to use either the common application or something like it. Okay. The CSUs and UCs are not on the common app. Okay. In order to solicit letters of recommendation, you are going to want to make contact with your counselor or your teachers early, right? So September, October. Counselors will not complete letters over winter break, so you want to talk to them as soon as possible. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to complete the brag sheet, okay? Both the parent portion and the student portion. And then I would strongly recommend that you ask your counselor or teacher in person, right? You want to make sure that they know who you are, put a face to the name, and making that in person request sometimes can make all the difference. Okay. We will detail this process at a senior college workshop in the fall, either in person or via online. Okay. Now, it's really important that you fill out this brag sheet because this is what counselors and teacher recommenders are going to be using in order to fill out information about you. And these are the things that we have to fill out. We have to report how you compare to the rest of your classmates. Okay. We have to provide them an evaluation in order to recommend you to their school. Okay. So the more information you are able to give us on your brag sheet, the better we are prepared to talk about you. Okay. Now, it costs money to go to college, but there is lots of financial aid and scholarships available. Okay. So absolutely plan to apply for your for your financial aid. Right. There's a free application for federal student aid called the FAFSA. Okay. This is mandatory. Okay. For some specific schools, you would want to complete the CSS profile. There's scholarship opportunity there as well. Now, there is a cost to creating a CSS profile, but if you are eligible for an SAT grant or fee waiver, you are also eligible for a CSS profile fee waiver as well. Okay. So your FAFSA will open generally October 1st, okay? And then the CSAC, the state deadline, March 1st or 2nd, and the same for Cal Grant, okay? So those are all going to be, these last two are going to be right at the beginning of March, okay? So there are grants available. There are lots of scholarships available. Please look at the West Ranch website. We have a list of scholarships that you can apply for. Okay. There's also work study while you are on campus having a job. And of course, there are student loans as well. Okay. Now, one of the things that is available to you because we live on the West Coast to kind of bring down tuition costs is something called WUI, right? The Western Undergraduate Exchange. And these are schools on the West Coast or near the West Coast, right? Um, and they have coordinated it so that if you are out of state, let's say you want to go to New Mexico or Washington or Alaska, um, you out of state students would pay no more than 150% of in state tuition at these participating schools, compared to a non resident rate of up to 300%. So, if you are interested in going to schools somewhere along the West Coast in one of these participating states, check out the website, check out the requirements, and maybe the majors that are available to you there. Okay? So, when it comes to college admissions, you want to make sure that everything is done early. So make sure that you keep checking the calendar and checklists, which is posted on the West Ranch website. Okay, and then make sure that you have your specific college admission requirements. You want to record key dates and timelines to get letters of recommendations from teachers and counselors. Okay. Early decision, early action is going to be October to mid November. So you want to make contact with your teachers and counselors by no later than September 1st. Okay. And again, private school and out of state schools, they're going to have a different time frame. So make sure that you know what those time frames are. Okay. Your Cal Grant GPA verification will be submitted electronically for you unless you have opted out of that with the district. Okay. So your senior year, we will do senior workshops, right? There will be a college night, either an evening presentation or a webinar. Okay, the same thing for financial aid night. Okay, there is a Cash for College at COC. There will also be a Common App workshop. So for those students that are looking to apply to private schools, and then if you're still not sure what's happening or what you might need, come into the counseling office, right? Come in at lunch. Counselors can always help answer questions, okay? Um, it is important that you are following the procedures, right? Private college counselors might be helping you, but you want to make sure that you know what the deadlines are here at West Ranch so that we can help you with all of your forms, okay? And last but not least, make sure to check your school email. That is how reminders and important information is going to be sent out to you throughout the year. Okay? You might have your private email, and that's great, but you do need to be checking your school email almost daily. Okay? Now, once you've selected your schools of choice, the best thing to do is to take a campus tour, right? Even if it's virtual. Do your research on the school, verify their admission requirements, make sure that you know what the actual college costs are, because those are going to vary depending on where your school is located. Okay? Once you get to college or the next phase in life, there are some essential skills that you're going to need, right? Time management, study skills. But I think the most important part is to ask for help when needed. Okay? You are going to be very successful after West Ranch, and we can't wait to hear all about it. Thank you, Wildcats.